Awesome. Welcome back to the Doc Pod, episode 2. Today we've got Greg Hoffman and myself, Connor McPherson. Excited to bring you some new content and talk about hopefully things that are relevant to all the doctors, doctors and OBL practices out there. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast, Greg.
Thank you. Yeah? No, it's good to be here. This is a great idea. I'm really stoked that we're doing this. And this is, the whole genesis of this is that as a business, our mission is to help doctors have successful OBLs. Mm-hmm. And, so many of them are the smartest people on the planet.
Yep.
They're saving lives. They're doing really important work. And we want to make sure that they succeed with their business part of it.
Yep.
Because an OBL is a business separate from their expertise as doctors. And so it's super fulfilling for us to see doctors be successful. I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
We haven't really been in the medical space the whole time. Mm-hmm. We've been doing contractors and lawyers and all kinds of businesses. But this is particularly gratifying because we're literally helping people change people's lives.
Yeah.
So super cool.
I think about, at least recently we had, lucky enough to have a chance to speak at the SIR Business Institute, Alan Hoffman and the team that put that on. And it's kind of hopefully an extension of that. And that was super inspiring to kind of be in that room full of other people like, I think that are like-minded with us of like, hey, how can we educate these doctors on how to run a successful practice, just because that's the trend that we're seeing. More and more of these OBLs are opening up, and that seems to be the way things that, it's going to continue. So being able to hear like the legal side of that or the practice management side of that and our side of that, the marketing side, just seeing doctors' eyes light up and seeing, people in that room asking a bunch of questions and being able to have open conversations about the business side of it. Right. Ultimately, it is about the money. You do have to make it, it's a part of it that I think a lot of times isn't talked about. And being able to help those doctors with that is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. There is this kind of this stigma of like, marketing in the medical space, like somehow it's not good to let people know that you're available to help them. Mm-hmm. But that's really what it is. Yeah. That's what marketing is at the most basic level.
And I think a lot of our clients too, there's just sort of a negative stigma around the word marketing or digital marketing. It's like, what does that mean? Is that some spammy clicks and links? Like, what is this? Like, what does it actually mean? What is digital marketing? I think a lot of our clients too that we've talked to have had bad experiences with agencies that left a bad taste in their mouth too. And so it's kind of a scary thing of you don't exactly know what you're looking for in a digital marketing company and what are the jargon and the terms. It's all sort of foreign and there's a lot of different moving pieces to it that's not really straightforward. So I think also clarifying for people what it is that they should be looking for in a digital marketing agency. I don't know, your take on that, at least the broad things for these doctors to be looking for.
Yeah. Well, again, it's just a business fundamental. Mm-hmm. Like even when, we sometimes feel like we don't want to call a patient a lead because that kind of dehumanizes them somehow. Mm-hmm. But really what it is we're helping doctors, share the information about what they do. A lot of people have no idea about these embolization procedures, so it's incumbent upon us to educate, the population out there too, that there are solutions out there that are far less, dramatically negative in their life. They're like super positive procedures that they're offering. Yeah. And it's up to us to help those doctors get that message out to the population bases around their practices. Mm-hmm. So it's super gratifying. We're really excited. We've got a lot of OBLs that we're helping now.
Yeah.
And we've got one of the things I want to talk to you about, Connor, is we've got amazing success stories. Mm-hmm. We've got some that haven't been as dramatically successful. Yeah. And they kind of, we're identifying some of the reasons behind that. Mm-hmm. And I think we should talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Let's obviously the fun part is to talk about the successes.
Sure.
So what do you think it is that an OBL does that we do that helps them succeed so dramatically?
Things that separate, the success stories from the people that it's taking a little bit longer to get off the ground. I think there's a couple of things that come to mind. I think having a really solid infrastructure, maybe, the ones that have worked with a really good practice management company, they've got all of the pieces that they need going into it versus opening the doors and kind of scrambling. And where that applies, at least to us in digital marketing, is having that foresight to plan ahead about a website. Okay, my doors are open. I need to have that website built before then. And, what is the timeline that takes? Is it a month? Is it 2 months? Being able to get ahead of that so that your domain is getting some age. You're allowing Google to see the content and the procedures that you're providing ahead of time so that you're not kind of up against it when you're opening your doors and you're wanting patients to come in. I think that's what we hear a lot.
You have to earn Google's trust.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't just give it to you because you put your website up.
Yep.
It takes them months to figure out what you're doing and if you're a legit business.
That's a common, I think, misunderstanding. It's like, oh, well, I have this beautiful website. It's got, a great headshot of me. It's got all of my information. People are just going to see it because I press the launch button. And that's just not the way it works. I kind of call it the business card website, where it's like only people that have your card that see, has the domain on it are going to see it. And that's just not the reality. There's so much extra work that goes into actually getting eyeballs, getting clicks on that website that doctors don't have the understanding that that's kind of the next piece of it. The website's great. Want something that looks good and converts, but you have to drive people to that website. Right. So I think that's a big thing. Another thing that comes to mind is having a really solid staff around you, and especially front desk staff that's going to answer the phone when it rings and get back to patients who are filling out the forms or quizzes that we put on that website.
That's huge.
Yeah. And I think that, again, it's just
overlooked.
It seems simple to us just because we're doing it. And that's such a big win for us when we see someone take the time to fill out a form. But if there's, we'll see it sometimes where it's days, not even, it really should be minutes between that form filler call and that response, and it can go a day or 2 days or longer, and they're gone. Yeah. You can speak to that.
Every lead is a precious, fragile little baby bird.
Yeah.
And the doctors have to have staff prepared to care for that lead the minute it comes in. And it's that experience from the very beginning that they have with your practice. That first impression is the most important.
Yeah.
And I think it's not their fault. Yeah. Again, this is a business. So in the most wonderful ways, it's a business that's helping so many people. So, but in its core, it's still a business, and people are sensitive, and they want to make sure that it's a legit place that they're contacting. So they're going out of their way to do it. So you really have to be proactive on how you manage that person from the very start.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we love also to have so much of the technology available that allows us to, observe this behavior. How is your staff interacting with these precious new leads?
Yeah.
Because those leads can become patients for, years to come.
Yeah.
Depending on your situation.
Yeah. Just hearing you talk about that, another thing that comes to mind of maybe a disconnect between what doctors' expectations are in reality and, the ones who are prepared for long-term success and those that are maybe it's a bit clunkier getting started. We're talking a lot about patience, but the other version of patience, being able to have patience for the long haul of like, okay, this isn't going to happen overnight. Marketing is not a silver bullet, the thing that's just going to get, you're not getting rich quick overnight. That's not how this works. And that's not how anything, really works in the world. You have to build up trust with Google, like we talked about, and do the right things consistently over time to see those results. So I think that's another thing, that setting the expectation that, okay, we're not going to have 20 cases in our first month, from Google. That's just not a realistic expectation at all. And it's going to, build up over 3 months and 6 months and a year, and you're going to see milestones But a lot of times we're starting from zero. If you're going out and starting a new practice, it's about getting the first visitor to a website. That's not me or you or the doctor or friends or family. It's about kind of building from nothing, and that doesn't just snap into place.
Right.
So, yeah, I think another kind of big topic that I think would be interesting for us to talk about is where you see this going as far as digital marketing. What's the future of digital marketing, and what there's been a lot of changes in Google recently, what that page layout looks like. A lot of our doctors ask us about ChatGPT, and it's sort of the buzzword AI and in digital marketing. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on where you think that's going.
Yeah, I think the OBL docs are in a incredible position. The ones who are, because you're on the frontier, you're on the leading edge of a whole new business category, really. Yeah. And the beauty of that is that unlike a lot of established businesses, you don't have a lot of competition online.
Yeah.
So you have this really wide open blue ocean opportunity to establish your practice in your markets. And I think with the changes that we're seeing right now with AI, that's another advantage you have if you're doing it now. It's changed with AI where Google is displaying things differently, where when you first, search a term like, Eufy, Denver, for example, now there's this whole category at the top of a page where it describes, it's called the AI overview, describes what that means, and then places where you can go to have that, procedure. And we're getting, like the clients that are involved with us, they're showing up in all these things.
It seems like Google is almost favoring IR doctors and embolizations as sort of this like, oh wait, this is an answer. Gemini and AI is picking up on it as people are also learning about it. So there's a lot of good momentum behind the embolizations themselves and the work that these doctors are doing.
Yeah. And so I think that's where digital marketing is really evolving to, where Google in the past was a page with places to go do your research, right? It was 10 links that you could go, and then you had to keep doing more research and more research. Well, now AI is trying to kind of answer it up front. Yep. And I think that's where our business is changing a lot. So, but we're in the driver's seat. No one's ahead of the curve because we don't know where that curve is going with AI. But we are on the edge of the wave with it. We're following it as it's going. Yeah. And our doctors, we're seeing it. They're benefiting all over the country. Yeah. All of our clients are.
That's a good point too. I think in another red flag that we hear for other agencies. If anyone's saying they know exactly what AI and Google's going to do next, is just lying to your face. I think it's
no one knows. I don't even think Google knows.
We got to be humble about this. A lot of our job is getting humbled and learning. You have to be adaptive and sort of seeing what the next trend is, or what people are talking about in the Google chat rooms, and seeing what the next update's going to be, or how to integrate with AI. And we're learning a lot about what that means, whether it's comparison chart tables on websites or good FAQs, and just providing really solid information in sort of this, Google is turning more into an answering service. Like, I just want information versus like a search result of a place. It's more of a information currency that is coming out.
It's described as, it used to be Google search. Yeah. Now it's Google intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's going from, you having to do all the work sort of to it trying to help guide you with that work. Yeah. But on the flip side of that is Google, you're hearing all these stories about how AI hallucinates, starts making up stuff if it doesn't have the answer. I've got it's like a little kid, they just start making up answers that sound good. So you do have to be careful. And I think we as consumers, as we're exposed to more AI, involvement, solutions, whatever it might be, we're going to become more discerning as well. We're not going to just accept everything. And we've all become a little bit, cynical, to, TikTok stuff and all kinds of outrageous statements. You just have to be careful of it. But to your point, I think what we're able to do with our clients is to really create some robust, super valuable content that Google recognizes as authoritative.
Yep.
And so they're going to display that.
Yep.
And I think that that's what's really exciting for us. That's all happening like right now in real time.
That's what I was going to say, just the value of content and having really high quality content that answers any possible question that a patient might have. And I know that, again, like these doctors are super smart and they can speak to this stuff on such a high level that they are the ultimate authority. And so having a doctor's thoughts and information, all the wealth of knowledge that they have, and putting that into a website, whether it's, an article they wrote, years ago on GAE or whatever, a study that they did, or just being able to even answer the simple questions that we may not think are, high enough, or, may not need to be asked or answered on a website, having those answers that patients are looking for just somewhere written on the website in some good detail. All that content is super, super important.
And our docs are the authority. They're the ones who have the most cutting edge, valuable opinions on that kind of stuff too. So
you mentioned the competition as well when you were talking earlier. Like there is, from an actual like OBL perspective, there's not a ton, popping up. Like there might be, hundreds of roofers in a city, for example, but there's not a ton of outpatient practices that are, stacking up on top of each other. And at least for now, perhaps in the future that becomes more competitive. I kind of like talking about the online competition that we do see, because that's another thing that I think can get overlooked a little bit is, there's no other practices in my area, my geographic sort of place where I'm pulling in patients from. But there are those hospital groups or an OBGYN or, different places that aren't necessarily exactly what you do, but it's online competition to us. But it's also, again, it's a huge opportunity because a lot of hospital groups aren't doing the level of digital marketing work I know that we do. And so those actually can be passed up. A lot of our doctors are surprised to see us overtake a huge hospital group that's been embedded in that city for a long time. I think that's another thing to consider, is that these giants in your mind may not be as giant for us if we do the right things.
They're there by default.
Exactly.
They're not there by intention.
Yeah. Google's just like, okay, well, this is a hospital in this area. They probably have the answer, when the level of care that a patient is going to get there versus an outpatient facility is just not even remotely the same. We're seeing that too.
We see that too with a lot of these larger sort of, more, old school, I guess, IR practices that can be large practices. Yeah. But their ownership is, close to retirement age or whatever. They don't want to do the marketing stuff. Yeah. And, we can beat those guys.
It's exciting opportunities for these doctors. I think of one of our great clients, Black Hills Heart and Vascular, in South Dakota, and I won't name the hospital group there, but there's sort of this negative stigma of this group that's just been kind of implanted there for years and years and years. And the patients there are looking for an alternative. They're literally searching alternative to these treatments, or I want a second opinion. And we actually have a second opinion page on that website, and their practice actually isn't even open. Again, they had the foresight to get that website done early, let it age. They're already outranking this big hospital group in the area, and people are filling out the form at a pretty high rate already, asking them, when can you see me? I want to get a second opinion from this group. So I think that if you see an opportunity in a market, I think there's a lot of it's worth it to go and take that leap and go for it, and you can beat out those people. Those groups. Yeah.
Okay. What else do we have anything? What were the other areas we wanted to chat about?
No, I think that's pretty much all we have. I think at least off the top today, but we'll probably come back with something more, maybe something more specific for next time. If you're watching this and you have an idea for something that you'd like to see or a question, obviously leave a comment. Let us know, reach out to us if you have any questions on anything that we talked about today. But we'll come back next time with maybe something that we could look at, like a Google business profile, or what is a good website layout, and try to answer some more specifics. But I think hopefully we did a pretty good job of just covering some of the overviews and some of the problems that we see or hearing from our doctors.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good deal. All
Good
right.
episode.
Thanks,
Break.
everybody.
Yep. Should we gong out?
Let's gong it out.
Break. Awesome.